What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through a wildcard draft for the upcoming double game week 28. So this video was very highly requested over in my Twitter DMs as well as the YouTube comments. Sorry for taking so long to release this video, but I was waiting for the FA Cup games to conclude just because that'll be quite a large portion of our planning. But you guys have probably already activated the wildcard chip, getting those price rises and those price drops. So what you can do now is watch this video, gather as much information as possible. Might be a slightly longer video than usual, but I do feel that it's jam-packed with information that'll be relevant to you wildcarders and also us non-chip users. I say us non-chip users because personally I won't be using the wildcard. I used it in game week 26, but the teams are relatively the same between game week 26 and game week 28. So as you always do with these draft videos, going to give you guys some context and some planning background before jumping straight into that game week 28 wildcard draft. But we will also be taking a look at double game week 29 and blank game week 30. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the first talking point we're going to be going over, shout out to Mikkel Tokvam. You guys must be quite used to this name. He runs a Twitter account called The Transfer Algorithm as well as a Patreon. But why I like these graphics is that it sets up the game week schedule really nicely. So the graphic that you can see on screen here, if you guys haven't watched my prior videos, basically what this is it's a prediction of the blanks and the doubles coming up. If it's a 2.0, it's a double. Anything between 2 and 1 is going to be a probability of a double game week. Anything less than a 1 is going to be a probability of a blank. And obviously a dash or a 0 means it's a confirmed blank game week. But I don't really want you guys to focus too much from game week 31 to game week 38. I know on a wildcard we should be planning ahead and we should be really planning for these upcoming blanks and doubles, but I do think you have to get the most advantage out of the short term, and that's I'm only going to highlight the game week 28 to game week 30 window. So if you guys are choosing to wildcard this week, next week, I think the short term will be super relevant because these doubles and blanks have been confirmed, whereas the ones in the future are a little bit unpredictable. But the reason I want to talk to you guys about the game week schedule is not because I want you to focus on the doubles and the blanks. I actually want to talk about chip strategy. Because as you guys know, on a wildcard, I love to use the wildcard plus bench boost combination. So if you guys do want to use this strategy, you'll have to bench boost in game week 29. Now my draft has sort of prepared for this. I do think the bench boost in 28 is better than 29. And that was actually one of the reasons why I chose to wildcard in 26 versus 28. But I guess you guys are stuck with the 28 or game week 29 wildcard now. Now also I would like to add that you guys could also wildcard maybe from game week 30 onwards. I know a lot of people are kind of aiming for that game week 36 bench boost. So if you guys choose to do that, that's 100%. You guys can just go look at the draft a little bit later on in this video to get some ideas for those free transfers and those hits. But now that we've kind of looked at the bench boost in game week 29, I want to talk about game week 30 specifically because this wildcard draft focuses on not using the free hit in game week 30. If you guys do choose to use the free hit in game week 30, maybe you have 2 free hits and that's a perfectly fine strategy to go for, then obviously your draft will look slightly different because you can take real advantage of the double game week players even if they do blank in game week 30. But as I said, this draft will focus on kind of going for a nice template where you don't have to choose to use the free hit because I personally believe with only 8 fixtures, Everton playing tonight, and if they do win, which there's a high probability, Everton versus Watford will be scratched out. You guys can see there's 0.07 chance of it blanking, so super high chance of that game week being cancelled. But as I was saying, only 8 games, I feel like the free hit, you can't really take advantage of it because there's so few fixtures, and that's why I think you're better off using it in game week 33 or game week 36. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys some context about the plan that I presented. Basically what I'm saying is that this draft gives you the opportunity to bench boost in 29, but also not free hit in blank game week 30. But now going into a bit more of an in-depth analysis into the fixtures and the teams that double, what I decided to do was go over to double game week 28, and I want to highlight the teams that double in 28, have a fixture in 29 obviously, but also maybe blank in game week 30. So you guys can see on the left hand side, I've got the teams that double, all 8 of those. Chelsea winning last night in the FA Cup meant that 8 teams will double in double game week 28, and that's including Chelsea and Norwich. So what I then decided to do was kind of rank the double game week 28 fixtures from best to worst. That's why you can see that Wolves and Chelsea are at top, and at the bottom we've got Norwich with Brentford and Chelsea at home, and finally Watford with Arsenal at home and Wolves away. But I'm pretty sure you guys know so much about the double game week 28 fixtures. We've kind of gone a little bit more in depth into those in the prior videos this week, so make sure you guys go check that out. I'm going to focus more on double game week 29 and blank game week 30. I then wanted to highlight the double game week 29 fixtures because I sometimes think that we get too kind of tunnel visioned on a double game week and we don't think about the future. And on a wildcard, I think you guys have to really focus on the future. So here I've showed you guys the fixtures that these teams that double will have in a double game week 29. Unfortunately for them, most of them will only have a single game week. Besides Newcastle will have Chelsea and Everton away. So the nice thing about these fixtures, you can see that Wolves and Chelsea, both who had kind of the two best double game week 28 fixtures, have relatively easy fixtures against Everton away and Newcastle at home. Villa travel to West Ham, which is quite tough. Leeds have Norwich at home, which is a great fixture on paper. Might not be kind of the best fixture like it was at the early stages of this season. Under Dean Smith, Norwich do look slightly better, but I do still favour this for Leeds. Southampton also have a nice fixture against Watford, and then it kind of goes down. We do have a Newcastle, as I mentioned, the first back-to-back double, the only kind of back-to-back double. So if you guys are on a wild card, I would look at some Newcastle options. And then Norwich have Leeds, and then Watford have Southampton away. Now moving on to Game Week 30, and unfortunately only 3 teams that double have a blank Game Week 30 fixture. That's going to be Wolves against Leeds, Villa against Arsenal, and then finally Leeds against Wolves. And then to kind of conclude the slide, what I did was on the right hand side, I highlighted how many fixtures these teams have in the next 3 game weeks. As you can see, a couple teams have 4 and the rest have 3. Now the reason I wanted to highlight this is that if you guys are wildcarding, I would focus on the teams that have 4, just because you're getting the most bang for your buck, the most value from those players. So Wolves, Villa, Leeds, and then also Newcastle I would focus on slightly more with the top 3 just because Newcastle do blank, but at least in blank Game Week 30 you have 3 bench options and those Newcastle options can fit on your bench quite easily. So I do really hope that this kind of laid out these fixtures a little bit easier just because, as I mentioned, sometimes we focus too much on the doubles and we don't think about the future. So now I decided to do the exact same thing, but now with double game week 29. So we have the teams on the left hand side, we have the single game week 28 fixtures besides Newcastle. Some relatively nice fixtures here. Arsenal have Watford, a popular kind of bench boost. A lot of bench boosts have those Arsenal assets. Liverpool have West Ham at home. Everton have Spurs away, not too great. Spurs have Everton at home though, which is a relatively nice fixture. And then Brighton have Newcastle as well. And then going to double game week 29, I also kind of sorted this, in my opinion, from top to bottom. I've placed Everton at the top just because I think Wolves and Newcastle at home could be quite nice fixtures. Arsenal have Leicester and Liverpool at home. Both home games make that quite advantageous. We then have Liverpool with 2 away games, Brighton, Arsenal. Spurs have United, Brighton. Newcastle already spoken about with Chelsea and Everton away. And then finally Brighton with Liverpool and Spurs both at home. But as you guys can see, double game week 29, definitely not as good as double game week 28. Most of these teams have kind of one good fixture and then one mediocre fixture, which is actually quite disappointing. But nevertheless, it is a double game week, and if you guys are going to be wildcarding, I would heavily focus on double game week 29 because most players might not have these options and you can get them in on a wildcard. Then go on to game week 30, as I mentioned, Everton versus Watford could be a blank, and that's why I've highlighted with kind of an asterisk. If Everton do win, which is predicted, then that will be a blank game week, and therefore we'll only have 2 teams that double in 29 and blank in game week 30. And that's going to be Arsenal and Spurs. So just like the previous talking point, yet again on the right hand side, I've gone for the 3 and 4 fixtures. We have Arsenal and Spurs who I'd focus on. Newcastle yet again having 4 fixtures, but I think Spurs and Arsenal, North London's where it's going to be for double game week 29. So to kind of conclude the prior 2 talking points, the teams that have 4 fixtures and the teams that I would focus on are going to be Wolves, Villa, Leeds, Newcastle, Arsenal, and then finally Spurs and Newcastle. Out of these teams, I think you guys can get a relatively nice template. You'll be able to save the free in game week 30, still get a relatively respectable team in double game week 28, 29, and I think that should lead you to a couple of green arrows, at least in the short term. But now let's get straight to it. This is going to be my double game week 28 wildcard draft. But I do think, to be honest, my draft is pretty template. And what I would recommend is kind of make this team and then make changes as you please to get the team that you are better fitted with. As I mentioned, this team aims to kind of bench boost in 29 and save the free hit in game week 30. But if you guys do choose to free hit in game week 30, you can go more aggressive with these double game weeks. In terms of the bank, I managed to afford this draft with about 0.5 I think left. So hopefully you guys are able to afford it. I'm going to start off with the bench on this wildcard draft, and you guys might be a little bit surprised here at how strong the bench is, but as I mentioned, any kind of wildcard in game week 28, because the teams are different from double game week 28 to double game week 29, you're going to have to stack your bench with single game week players. And unfortunately, those single game week players have relatively good fixtures. I've got the Arsenal triple up of Ramsdale, Tierney and Saka, all with Watford away. Now this game is quite hard to call. I can see Watford actually scoring in this, which doesn't lead me to want to bench boost too much, but I do think this is still a favourable fixture for Arsenal and they should do quite well. We also have Mr. FPL defender Trent Alexander-Arnold against West Ham at home. Tough fixture there, but it is at Anfield and I am expecting Liverpool to hopefully keep a clean sheet and Trent to get some attacking returns. So this is exactly what I was talking about with your bench boost in game week 28 and why a wildcard in game week 26. The benches look so much stronger in this game week versus next game week. But you're just going to have to take this on the chin, unfortunately, just because, as I mentioned, the bench is going to have those double game week 29 options. But now going on to our starting goalkeeper, and it's going to be Dubravka from Newcastle. The 4.4 I think comes in relatively cheap. Newcastle defender has back-to-back doubles. Brighton at home and Southampton away aren't too bad, and Newcastle have dramatically improved from a defensive point of view. So I think this choosing of Ramsdale and Dubravka rotate really nicely between the doubles and the blanks, and that's why I think this is the perfect option to go for, especially because Dubravka comes in quite cheap. Now heading on to our back three, I've got Luca Digne, Cody and Saiss. I've doubled up on that Wolves defense just because the fixtures of Crystal Palace and Watford are too hard to ignore, and I do expect Wolves to keep a double clean sheet. Now I know that Saiss and Cody aren't the most exciting picks here, but I do think you have to go with nailed players, and I do think these two centre backs are. Luca Digne also provides some attacking threat. Southampton at home and Leeds away, relatively good fixtures. Just hoping that he can add some clean sheets to that haul. Now I know the big question mark is going to be about the Chelsea defenders, but unfortunately I didn't include them here just because I think I needed the money elsewhere, and I think the value that these back three provide is too hard to ignore. But what you guys can do is maybe downgrade a Tierney to a White and then upgrade one of these other assets to a Rudiger or Thiago Silva. But as I've mentioned, this draft is with the plan to not free it in game week 30, and that's why I've gone super conservative. We're then going to move on to our midfield department, which is going to be pretty template. It's going to be our single game week player, Mohamed Salah. On a wildcard, I would not ignore him, especially because he doubles in game week 29, where he will be the most popular captaincy option. And against West Ham at home, he could even be a captain for double game week 28. Coutinho and Rafinha are kind of no-brainers on a wildcard, a very nice doubles, and they're also playing blank game week 30. So both of these two assets will be Coutinho and Rafinha's fixtures are quite good, not really outstanding, but I still do think that these two will be the most popular double game week players in terms of captaincy. And our final midfielder to go for might be a little bit of a surprise here. It's going to be Willock from Newcastle. Now, I was debating between Willock and Fraser, but Willock has slightly better stats than Fraser, at least for the short-term or medium-term prior game weeks. And that's why I have gone for him. 2 doubles in a row is something that I think wildcarders should take advantage of. And as I said, a differential, and I think you have to have 1 or 2 of them on a wildcard. But you guys can chop and change wherever you want. Maybe you want to put a Ramsey and then upgrade a Cody or Saiss to maybe a Rudiger or a James. That's perfectly fine to do, but I still do favor some variation in that midfield. But then going to our final forward department, I've got Raul Jimenez, Harry Kane and Broja. Also super kind of template front three. Opted for Harry Kane over Heung-min Son just because I think Kane is performing slightly better than Son at the current moment. Is on penalties, that's a little bit of an advantage. And in terms of those forwards, there's not many other forwards I'd want. Raul Jimenez and Broja are no-brainers though, double game weeks coming up. Also Raul Jimenez plays in blank game week 30. Broja unfortunately won the game last night, so he blanks in game week 30, but that won't be a problem because you still will have a full starting 11. I think Kane or Son is a no-brainer as well on a wildcard just because they do double next week, and they also have some nice fixtures coming up in the short term. So overall, this is going to be my game week 28 wildcard draft. As I mentioned, quite a conservative or template one, but I think you guys can make this and then just build on it however you do please. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about it, but now let's head on to the future game week planning. So what I wanted to do here is just show you guys a glimpse into the future if you guys do go with this draft, just because I think you guys have to. This is one of the most integral things to do on a wildcard, is plan ahead with those fixtures. So I'm going to start off with the bench here. We've got Dubravka on the bench. We also have Digne, Cody and Coutinho. So what I want you guys to do is just imagine if you guys were to bench boost, this will probably be your bench heading into double game week 29. Would you bench boost this? Would you not? It's a little bit of a borderline case for me. I don't think it's the best fixtures in the world, but I do think you might not get a better opportunity to have this strong of a bench, even in game week 36. Dubravka has a double fixture. Cody against Everton could be a clean sheet. My only concern here is Aston Villa because they have been a little bit hit or miss under Stevie G, and Luca Digne and Coutinho could be absolute flops. But now that we've seen the bench, let's go on to our forward line. We've got in the defense Ramsdale with the lovely double against Leicester and Liverpool. Now I actually do think that Liverpool and Leicester will both score against Ramsdale, so I do think you might be hoping for some save points here, which I mean Ramsdale's perfectly good at getting, and he could even sneak a couple bonus points. But there is always the off chance of a clean sheet, and that's why I think Ramsdale's perfectly fine to go for, especially in that goalkeeper department, because there's not too many goalkeepers in double game week 29. The rest of our backline will be Trent, Tierney and Saiss, a pretty pick yourself kind of a template back three because of the double game weeks. Brighton and Arsenal for Trent, and also the same fixtures for Tierney as Ramsdale, but at least Tierney offers some attacking threat in that fullback position. Now you would be having to play Saiss here against Everton, but I guess you could play Luca Digne, but I do think Saiss has the better chance of a clean sheet. Then go on to our 4, we've had a substitution of Coutinho for Saka. So Saka coming in with a double game week. Mo Salah has the double game week, probably going to be your captain. Willock yet again has a double. And then Rafinha finally has a nice fixture against Norwich. Same front three as well, Raul Jimenez against Everton. Harry Kane with that double against United and Brighton. And then finally Broja against Watford. So the team still looks quite strong for double game week 29, but just remember, this is with no transfers made. So you guys could always do a transfer or a hit if you wanted to. My only concern here is going to be the bench boost because I always like wildcarding and bench boosting, so that might be a dilemma you guys go into for double game week 29. And now finally going on to blank game week 30, which is going to be super integral if you guys don't want to use the free hit. I would plan ahead with some caution, but as I said, you guys can make free transfers, and I would recommend making one a little bit later on when we look at this draft. So on the bench, I think much to talk about. Dubravka, Trent, Willock and Breuer all missing out, but these players still have some nice fixtures coming up, so I would keep hold of them. Going on to our defense, we've got a back four, starting off with Ramsdale against Aston Villa. Now you guys will own a couple of these options. Unfortunately, with only 4 fixtures going ahead, you're going to have players that play against each other. You just got to kind of hope for no goals or a lot of them. But Tierney and Ramsdale against Everton, we also have Digne on the other side with the home fixture. So as I said, hoping for goals or not too many. Saiss and Cody against Leeds, which I think is a really nice fixture to go by. Wolves have been quite defensively assured, even though they have been conceding 1 or 2 in the past couple of game weeks. They have been slightly unlucky, and that's why I do think Cody and Saiss could get a clean sheet against Leeds. Going on to the 4, Saka, Coutinho and Rafinha. Most of these options are a little bit differential, so hoping for some points, but the expectations aren't too high for them. But now it comes to the first transfer that I would recommend making. I would recommend downgrading Salah to Maddison, just because Leicester take on Brentford at home. Now don't worry, I'm not going completely mad here. You will bring Salah back in next week, probably for full Coutinho as those Aston Villa fixtures get a little bit tougher. But what that Salah to Maddison move will allow you to do is get a full kind of starting 11. As you guys can see in our front 2, we've got Raul Jimenez and Harry Kane with both having fixtures. Raul Jimenez against Leeds, a side that's been super leaky this season, but they do have a new manager, so maybe he will shore it up at the back, but apparently he's also quite an attacking manager, so this might be Bielsa 2.0. Harry Kane taking on London rivals West Ham. I think that game will be quite cagey, and that's why I honestly don't mind only having one option. You could always go Salah to Son, but I think Maddison has the high ceiling, as I think that West Ham game will be quite close. But as you guys can see here, with only one free transfer made, we yet again have a full starting 11 for blank game week 30, which I think would lead to quite an advantage of saving that free hit. You guys could use the other transfer to maybe upgrade or downgrade someone else in blank game week 30 or double game week 29. But this is basically going to conclude the wildcard, a kind of future perspective, and the wildcard drafts in general. Hopefully you guys think it's a good draft. I know it's quite conservative or template, but I just think, as I said, you guys can change it as you guys do please, as everyone's chip strategy and game week plan is going to be different. Comment down below what your guys' wildcard drafts are or any concerns, and I'll hopefully get to them before that game week 28 deadline. But this is basically up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did, and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. I won't be doing a deadline with Dayvy stream this week, but hopefully I'll be creating one more team selection video before that game week 28 deadline. But I'm signing off. Me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.